We are now in our sexual reproduction unit. So in this process, this notes unit, we're going back to complete reproduction. We have already done, if we look on the right side here, these are the completed notes that you have that you could have downloaded and printed out if you wanted to from Canvas. So we've already talked about asexual reproduction. That's where we've been. The process used in asexual reproduction is mitosis. Where does it occur? In all of our body cells. And remember, we said that's also called somatic cells. So that's the incidental vocabulary term for body cells the EOC likes to use. The results of mitosis, it makes clones, which means the same thing, the slash mark, as identical copies of a cell. And in some cases, for simple animals, they can clone themselves the entire body for our very simple animals. So they're diploid cells. Mitosis always makes diploid body cells that are identical clones. So if you have a freckle on your nose, you're always going to have one there because every time mitosis occurs, the cells code for a freckle. Now, other examples, like healing a cut on your hand or you break a bone, in time they heal because of mitosis. The advantages for this is they do reproduce fast. If you get a small cut on your hand, not a deep gouge, but just a small cut, within a week, it's usually almost, for you guys, it's almost completely gone. As you get older, it does take a little bit longer to heal the cuts, but that would be reproduction occurs fast for healing a scrape or something on your arm. Now, the disadvantage for that, and this is all the cells can, from that line of mitosis cells, all those cells can die from the same disease. So, yes, that does kind of hurt us as well. For we know right now we have the coronavirus going on, and some people can get the coronavirus and they're very, very ill. We know those are people that are over the age of 60 with underlying health conditions. But people younger than that, for whatever reason, they're better. They don't get as sick. They can still get sick, but they don't get as sick. So because every single cell inside your body is a clone, it's an identical copy of a cell. And we've already talked about what makes your eyeball cells different from cells in your heart is which genes are activated. So we'll review that a little bit later. So that's mitosis. So here's diploid organisms. If we look on the left to the PowerPoint slide, these are little baby piglets. In this piglet right here, every single cell in its little body is identical to every other cell. This little piglet at the other end has the same thing. Every single cell in its body is identical to every other cell. What makes this piglet look different than this one? Maybe this piglet's going to be smaller than the other one at the other end, is which genes the piglets got from their mama and their daddy. But within each of these piglets, every single cell in their body is identical. Now, over here you have obvious siblings. So this little girl, even if they have the same parents, this little girl has all of the cells in her body are the same DNA. Her sibling, he or she has all, probably a little girl, has all the cells in her little body are going to be the same. But they each got a different set of genes from their parents. So we know that sometimes siblings look alike, but we're also different from our siblings. So that's asexual reproduction. So that's how this little girl got to be as big as she is. How this baby is as big as she is because of mitosis, making those clone cells. Now, what we're going to talk about this unit is, going back to the note sheet here on the right, is sexual reproduction. The process is called, it looks like it's pronounced meiosis, has the word me and then osis in it. That is the way I'm going to pronounce it. To help you differentiate between this word over here in asexual reproduction, mitosis. As I have said before, human beings, when we reread the ending and the beginning of words only. The middle doesn't matter to our eyes as we read. And the problem is these words both begin with an M and they both begin with an OSIS. So that's the problem. So this is correctly pronounced meiosis. I will be incorrectly pronouncing it to help you remember which is which. So this is meiosis and this is mitosis, just to help you remember and differentiate between the two. Where does meiosis occur? In females, it occurs in our ovaries, which make an egg every month. Gentlemen, your testes, they make sperm. These are the only cells in which meiosis occurs. The result of meiosis is it makes unique or different cells. They are also haploid, and they are genetic variety, meaning variety means different. So you may have your school uniform shirts, you may have a collared shirt, and you may have like 5 of them, and 2 of them are black, and there's a couple of whites, and there's a burgundy in there somewhere. So you have the same t-shirt, they just look different. So that's what variety means, is they look different. And this one is the genes, the genetic is varied. So it makes unique, meiosis makes unique cells that are all haploid. Now remember, hap means half, so that has half the DNA of a diploid cell. And we know from the mitosis unit, diploid di means 2. So diploid cells have 2 copies or 2 sets of each chromosome, one from your biological mom, one from your biological dad. Whereas haploid sex cells, they only have 1 copy of each chromosome. So, and there's some more involved in that, and we'll talk about that shortly. Examples of meiosis is babies. Babies have some traits from their mom and some traits from their dad. Just like over on the left here, these 2 beautiful little girls, they are siblings. You can see they have similarities between them, but they're also different individuals because they each got a different combination of genes from their parents. And that is the advantage. In the human race, all humans, we are all different, even from the same parents. You don't have, unless you have identical twins, every single one of us is a unique human being. There has never been one like us, and there will never be one like us again. That is because meiosis makes unique cells. So every organism is unique. So we have a better chance to survive disease, like the coronavirus. You guys are in a group where you have a very high chance to survive. In fact, the current death rate in the United States is 0.4%. And so far, all of those have been the elderly. So 0.4%. Whereas if you look at the global death rate as of last night's news, it was 4% globally. So we are all unique people. And because the United States, we've had warning, we've had time to isolate, we have option to get medical care. Not all countries have that, which is why we have some death rates pretty high in some other countries. But we are all unique. The human race will survive the coronavirus, just like we survived AIDS, just like we survived SARS and the Zika virus and the bubonic plague back in the 1300s. We survive because we are all unique. The disadvantage to meiosis happens to be that it does take time and energy. It takes about 9 months to grow a baby human. And for some of you that have had Mrs. Pointbrand or Mrs. P for either earth science or physical science, she had her baby yesterday. So yesterday was March 25th. She had her baby early in the morning on March 25th. So, and she was almost full term. I think she was maybe less than a week early. So it takes 9 months to grow a baby. That takes a lot of effort and a lot of time. So that's your differences. This is like a summary table of sexual reproduction versus asexual. Now, over here, haploid cells. We've talked before, a pollen grain is a haploid cell. Inside of every pollen grain is a sperm from a plant. If you're like me and you're allergic to pine pollen particularly, I'm allergic to the casing that the sperm is in, not the sperm itself. Here is a chicken. In the city limits of Greenville, you're allowed to have female chickens. They're called hens. They will lay eggs every 2 or 3 days. But they're never going to become a baby because you're not allowed to have a rooster in the city limits because they, cock-a-doodle-doo every morning when the sun comes up. So this female will lay eggs every 2 or 3 days, and she'll sit on them as if they're her babies. But people that have chickens, they go out and they collect the eggs every time they lay the eggs because they're not going to become babies because there's no rooster, and the rooster's the male chicken. All right, so this is a review from the mitosis unit here. Remember, an X is a chromosome, and a chromosome is made up of 2 chromatids. So there's your chromosome made up of 2 chromatids. And this part here where they are joined is called the centromere, if you remember. Centromere. Here's your visual from the mitosis unit. This is the exact same picture in those notes. Now, let's look at what we're going to have in this unit. This unit has 2 chromosomes sitting next to each other. These are called homologous chromosomes, also called a tetrad. Let's talk about homologous first, because you know chromosome is the X. What does the prefix homo mean? We've talked about this before. It means same. So homologous is a fancy biology word for same. So homologous chromosomes mean same chromosomes. So this is, let's say this is you. So this would be being traditional. Sorry about that, guys. The blue chromosome comes from your biological dad. The pink chromosome comes from your biological mom. And these are homologous chromosomes because each of these chromosomes carries genes for the same traits. So for example, the blue chromosome, both of these chromosomes code for eye color. But your daddy's chromosome may code for dark brown eyes, and your mama's chromosome may code for medium brown eyes. Your dad may code for 6 feet tall. Your mama may code for 5'7". So they're the same genes, meaning the word homologous, same, but your dad and your mom obviously are going to give you genes of what they have. Okay? So this over here, it includes 2 chromosomes that are only formed during meiosis in eukaryotic cells. So prokaryotic bacteria can't make these. They don't have X's. They're chromosomes 1 and it's an O. Now, here's an example that we're going to go look over here. Let me look at my second one right here. Okay, so we're going to say that mom's gene, so this pink chromosome, says that you're going to have hanging earlobes. This woman down here, and you may, if you're using your phone particularly, you may have to zoom in. This woman has, if you have attached earlobes, this woman has attached earlobes over here. So if you notice, her earlobe goes straight down into her face. So the earlobe right here is very, very narrow. The other type of earlobe you can have is called free. Notice this woman's earlobe kind of dips down and then comes right back up again. So she's got a fatter lobe of her ear. And that's a gene. So in this hypothetical situation that your mom says hanging earlobes, your dad say attached. So let's say your mom's got these kinds of earlobes, your daddy's got these kinds of earlobes. So each child is going to get one of those 2. So there's a combination. So you could get hanging earlobes or you could get attached earlobes. So this is just a trait that we can actually see on the parents, on a person. So here, let's look at these labels. The X is a chromosome. B is the little button is a centromere. Those are this is the two halves are the chromatids. And if I scoot back over here, that's the chromatid right here. And then the two of those X's put together is the homologous chromosome. Now, let's look over here at the word tetrad. What does tetra mean? Well, tetra means the number 4. How many chromatids are there in 2 chromosomes? Well, if we go back up to this picture, here's one X, one chromosome. It has 2 chromatids. So that means 2 chromosomes have 4 chromatids. So the tetrad refers to the number of chromatids in the cell, in that pair, that homologous chromosome pair. Now, this is what meiosis looks like. Now, you are not going to have to memorize all these pictures. You're not going to have to draw them. But let's take a look at this, because the EOC could give you like a picture, and you have to look at it. What do you notice about the names? Prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase, cytokinesis. They're the same names you learned in mitosis. But in meiosis, something weird's going on. Let's take a look down at this one. Now we have prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase, and cytokinesis again. So in meiosis, one cell divides twice. So here's one cell dividing to make 2 cells. So this is telophase and cytokinesis. This will split, and there's going to be 2 cells. Each of these 2 cells here now, I'm going to come down to 2. This is the 2 cells that were made right here. They're going to go through their own prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase, and cytokinesis. So to combat that, scientists use the Roman numeral for 1 and the Roman numeral for 2. So this prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase, and cytokinesis has the Roman numeral 1 after it, because this is when the cell first divides. This is the first cell division. The second cell division, each of the phases has a Roman numeral 2 after it, because it's the second time the cell divides. At the end here, notice you have 4 cells. These 2 we're going to finish splitting. These 2 will finish splitting. So this is meiosis. So it makes 4 cells, and they're haploid. So let's figure out what that means. So if we look here, notice in metaphase, you have 2 sets of X's lining up. See, there's one red and one blue X. Here's one red and one blue X. So these are homologous chromosomes. So this is homologous chromosomes. That the red one is your mama's chromosome, and the blue one is your daddy. And let's say that's chromosome number 3. This one is a different chromosome. They say number 4. The pink X is mama's chromosome. The blue X is daddy's chromosome. And then you've got others over here. So homologous chromosomes line up in the middle of the cell. Okay, that's these. So this is what is lining up in the middle. So you have homologous chromosomes line up in the middle. Homologous chromosomes separate. Tela means far apart, so the homologous chromosomes reach opposite sides of the cell. Cytokinesis means cell splits, so the cytoplasm of the cell is dividing. Then we get to prophase 2. Pro, first, the DNA first becomes visible. Meta means middle. Now you only have 1 chromosome here. There's 1 chromosome here. 1 chromosome here. So now you have what looks like metaphase of mitosis. But there's a catch here. Can you see there's a blue tip over here to this red homologous chromosome set? There's a blue tip. This is a red homologous chromosome, but it also has a blue tip. So something else is going on in meiosis, and it occurs here. because you notice you see the red and the blue are mixing. Once you get to anaphase 1, the red and the blue chromosomes mix. So mom and dad's chromosomes are mixing, and that's something that we're going to get to later. So when you get down to telophase 2, then instead of having one of this length blue chromosome and one red chromosome, you're only going to have one of those. So in other words, you only have one copy of each chromosome. So in this cell, this one in anaphase 2, this has mama's red. This one has mama's DNA. This chromosome over here has most of mama's DNA, but a little piece of your daddy's DNA attached to it. So if you look, all of these chromatids now, they all look unique. They have a different combination of red and blue. And that's something that is also unique to meiosis. So again, you don't have to memorize this, but if the EOC gives you a picture of this and says, oh yeah, what process is that? Well, if you're making 4 cells, it's going to be meiosis. And remember, I'm saying it incorrectly to help you remember and distinguish it from mitosis, which is asexual reproduction. Down here, this is meiosis if it would have occurred in a male. These are round cells, those are eggs. These are your male sperm. So 4 eggs are made in the female, 4 sperm are made in the male. Now, you guys remember, what is this long little whip-like thing here? Is it a cilia or flagella, the long whip? If you remember, the long word is the longest whip. The longest word refers to the longest whip structure. So this is how the sperm move around. And this is a flagellum, not a cilia. And these little dark brown packets that are here, those are pouches full of hundreds and hundreds of thousands of mitochondria. So the mitochondria use the sugar glucose to make energy to make the little sperm swim to find the egg when reproduction occurs. All right, now this is a review of the last unit of mitosis. Remember, diploid, written mathematically as 2n, di means 2, so it has 2 copies of each chromosome, one from your mama and one from your daddy. Haploid, hap means a half or 1 copy of each chromosome. So your mama could not give you all of her DNA. She could only give you half of it. So from your biological mom, you have some of your grandmama's DNA and some of your granddaddy's DNA from your mama. Okay? And haploid, remember, is written as N. So that concludes these notes. You've got some review formative assessments to work with to help you with your vocabulary terms.